All here? Okay. All right. Well, hello. I'm very excited. It's one of my favorite groups I get to pull together today about a topic that is such an impact on so many lives. I'll let them tell you more about the amount of people that are dealing with this, but because they're the experts. But dementia and what Alzheimer's, and I think a lot of people like to call it Alzheimer's because that's what they know, but dementia is many, many different things, as you will learn today. So I want to go through this group and let you guys kind of introduce yourself so we can kind of see who's here, what you do. So you guys will give me as much information as you can about that. So on my thing here, I've got Hadia as our first one. So I'm going to let Hadia introduce yourself. Who are you? Where do you work? What do you do? What does your organization do? So we'll start there.
Thanks, Jim. My name is Hadia So, and I am the Senior Program Manager at the Alzheimer's Association, specifically at the Greater Indiana chapter. And I have the honor of just sharing information about what Alzheimer's disease is, what dementia is in the community. We serve all of the communities in Indiana. I specifically serve Metro Indianapolis. And so we do this kind of by going out and providing education programs anywhere, whether it's a church, whether it's a clinical setting. We can just provide information to people about this disease. But we also provide resources such as a 24-hour helpline, which I know Jim will let me talk about later, but I'll throw out the number for that. It's 800-272-3900. If you take away nothing else from what I say, call that number because there is support available. You are not alone and you don't have to deal with this disease alone. So thank you, Jim, as always, for having me with this group of dynamic women.
And Hadia, thank you. And do me a favor, if I don't ask you to tell that again, then yell at me and tell it. Okay, so because I will try, but you know, my brain sometimes gets lost. Vicki, I've lost you on my screen, but I see you on my list here. So let's get you to introduce yourself. Here you are. Introduce yourself and tell me who you are. What, you know, I'll sit back and relax for a while while you tell all the things that you're doing, and then we'll go from there.
Well, thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to join you as usual. My name is Vicki Greeno, and I'm the Interim Director of Memory Care Services and the Memory Care Services Business Development Specialist with American Senior Communities. And we offer memory care neighborhoods throughout the state of Indiana. We're the largest provider of dementia services in both the nursing home industry and the assisted living industry here in Indiana. And we have one location in Louisville, Kentucky as well. And basically, we serve those folks who have cognitive impairments that would benefit from residing in a more structured environment, providing them with a safe and secure area to have a great quality of life, providing them with some really good structure to help enhance their overall quality of life. So anybody would like any additional information, you can always go to asccare.com and seek a community near you.
Thank you. Miss Winnie, Melinda, would you please tell us who you are and what you do? And you can even throw in all your good news if you want. I don't care for that.
Oh gosh, no. No. I am Melinda Winnie. Some may know me as Mindy Winnie. I am a dementia program supervisor at Sakoa Aging and In-Home Solutions. Just real quick about Sakoa. Sakoa is the largest area agency on aging here in the state of Indiana. We cover Marion County and then the 7 surrounding counties, provide a wide variety of services, information and referral services, care management, home delivered meals and other nutrition services, transportation, caregiver support, home modifications, the list goes on and on. But I am here specifically representing the Dementia Friends Indiana initiative. The way that Dementia Friends Indiana and Sakoa tied together, Sakoa is the state administrator for the state of Indiana. So really what that means is we hold the license for this program. What's really neat about this program is this is not just something that is in the state of Indiana or even just in this in the United States. This actually originated over in the United Kingdom. And this movement has since spread into 56 different countries across the globe. So this is really the largest global awareness initiative around dementia. And so we go around with trained volunteers into the community, kind of like Hadia, what she had mentioned with her educational programs, but we really target all community sectors. Again, just trying to reach out to folks, get the conversation started about what dementia is, the signs, the symptoms, how do we effectively communicate with these folks? And ultimately, folks walk away having an idea of what they can do as individuals to make a difference for people living with dementia in their communities. So we offer 1-hour sessions that are free and available to all folks, hopefully shifting back into in-person sessions here soon, but still continuing to do that over Zoom. And I'll just kind of wrap up there before I continue to just ramble on. So thank you, Jim, as always. And it's just so great to see everybody again.
And whether you know this or not, if somebody wants to, they're middle of the night and they want to know more about Dementia Friends and would like to see a class, Mindy actually has a video. We have a video of Mindy doing a full dementia class, Dementia Friends class on Life's Copilot in our library. So, you know, you can
awesome.
do it at midnight if you want to.
That is awesome. Either there, absolutely. We've got a video session that is on our website too for folks that, exactly. Thanks, Jim, for mentioning that. But for folks that just can't catch a live session, you are always welcome to check out that video session. Or if you want to listen to me talk a little bit more, that might be the route to go. So thanks.
There you go. So then I got next, Carol. Carol, would you like to introduce yourself and who you're with and what you do?
Thank you, Jim. I always appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and the groups. I'm Carol Houghton. I'm with the Forum. We are located on the corner of 86 and Woodfield, and we offer independent living and memory care. We are owned by 5 Star, and our memory care approach is a little different. It is a Montessori approach and very resident centered. The team has been together for many years. We've got some associates on memory care that have been there 15 years, 12 years, 7 years. So it really is a wonderful thing. They intimately know the residents and their families and have built long-lasting relationships.
Excellent. And by the way, Carol, thank you. You were one of our newest members on Life's Copilot in your community. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
A pleasure. We're happy to be a part of it.
And then let's see, Miss Regina. So tell me about who you are and what you do.
Hello, everyone. I think I had never met Carol. So hi, Carol. It's nice to meet you. And I don't know that I've met Molly before. So hi, Molly. Nice to meet you. So I am the VP of People Operations at Independent Adult Day Centers. For those of you who don't know what Adult Days are, we are an organization that allows guests to come into our facility for just the day. There's no overnight. And so we like Carol, we do have a Montessori program as well, all person centered, where we provide appropriate activities. I was going to say adult activities, appropriate activities. For your loved one that's dealing with dementias, Alzheimer's, various cognitive impairments. Some of our guests don't have any types of cognitive impairment. They're just aging and don't even want to be home by themselves. And so they look for opportunities to socialize with other people. Also in this setting, we do have physical therapy and occupational therapy. And so that makes it nice to keep guests from having to go to different facilities, or if they were coming to the center and therapy is scheduled in the middle of the day, they can come into our place and continue with that therapy, either with their own therapist or with therapy that we provide in the center. We also have healthcare coordination, which is huge for people who want to age at home and just still have some of those challenges of getting to and from doctor's appointments and getting to and from the therapy appointments that are outside their homes or outside of our facility. So we can help coordinate that. We have attendant care services now. That was birthed through COVID. COVID birthed a lot of things. And so attendant care and home health care was one of the two entities that we added to our line of services through COVID. So now we're able to provide those skilled nursing services as well as attendant home care. So that's pretty much what we do. And I'm sure I'll cover a whole lot of other things as we go through the night.
Well, very good. Molly, I think this is your first panel with us.
This is,
another
yes.
new Life Co-Pilot member. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Well, thank
So
you.
tell me who you are, what you do, where you are, and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. My name is Molly Matthews. I'm the marketing director at Rose Senior Living in Carmel. So we are one of the newer senior communities in Hamilton County. We just turned 3 in April. We do have independent living, assisted, and then memory care. So our goal is to let people age in place. So we will do anything we can to keep them in their home. And then for tonight's discussion with our memory care, we do have a new program. It's called Heartfelt Connections. And unfortunately, I have not received training on that yet. I would love to have more information to share, but the gist of it is that we, approach each person very individually. Everyone is on, their own path, their own journey, and at a different place. So we meet them where they are and try and encourage as much independence and, work on self-worth and self-esteem and have purposeful activities throughout the day. We want to be a support system for the whole family and not just the resident. And again, I would love to come back at some point and give more details on the Heartfelt Connections.
Well, very good. Well, thank you. And last but definitely not least, Miss Jessie, would you like to introduce yourself and what the Memory Compass is and what you do?
Yes, thank you for having me, Jim. So my name is Jessie Hillock, and I'm the owner of the Memory Compass. I provide dementia family coaching, consulting, and therapy services. So I help really like the sandwich generation, we call it, of those who might be caring for their own children, but are also now in a space where they're caring for their parents or their loved ones. And there's a lot to manage in all of that. And, oftentimes I work with families who they just received a diagnosis, or maybe the loved one has had a diagnosis for a while and they just don't really know what to do. They're at a crossroads. So I provide dementia family coaching services, going over neurology reports in layman's terms, helping them with, connecting to different resources in the area, but then also helping with recommendations on the best communication approaches to use with their loved one, different products that are around that could be used within the home to promote independence and safety. I also provide therapy services for the individuals themselves, credentialed with Medicare Part B. It doesn't matter whether someone has been recently diagnosed or whether they're in the later stages. I provide therapy throughout the continuum. And I also am something newer that I'm providing is cognitive wellness services. So after maybe somebody is no longer living at home and they're transitioning into memory care or assisted living or long-term care, going in and kind of analyzing the situation and giving families like the best types of ways to visit with their loved one, maybe how the room should be set up a little bit differently. When there's visitors there, what are topics that can be discussed, coming up with a reminisce book together, an all about me book together. So we've kind of expanded a little bit in services in that way, but the Memory Compass supports not just the individual with the diagnosis, but the whole family, because this takes a village.
Oh, very good. Well, I will tell you, we're going into a topic today that, of course, every one of you are experts on. I know just enough to be dangerous and to try to ask questions. So, but one of the things that I know that Hadi and I had this conversation a while back, and I can't recall when it was. My wife and I went to go to see Tony Bennett perform. And it was interesting because both of us had spent a lot of time on stage at different times in our lives, as doing speaking, or she was an entertainer. And so we have some kind of concept of stage, and we could really see where his band was there to protect him every time he would start kind of wandering off on not knowing the words or whatever. Then all of a sudden he would just point to one of his band members and they would start doing a solo, and then they'd kind of go around the table, and then all of a sudden he'd have his bearing back or got his energy back or whatever. I mean, man's in his 90s and he's still performing. But I read later that he has, dementia. So we saw it, but I don't know that unless you spend a lot of time on stage and understanding stagecraft, if you would have noticed that it was so well orchestrated. And we came away almost in tears even before we knew that this was the case, because how much they were taking care of him and protecting him. Okay. But yet we had a phenomenal concert. Alzheimer's is not the door doesn't shut the day that you get the diagnosis, is what I'm trying to get to here. So someone gets that diagnosis, someone has that. What's the first step? And I don't, right now, Jesse, you're big on my screen, so I'll let you go ahead and keep going. You're the focus one here. For that, so in any case, they get that. In fact, I just sent when somebody to YouTube for that exact same thing, because oh my God, what do we do? All of you can step in on this, but what is that first step? What is the thing that, because I think that probably most families are in panic mode when they get that word.
Yeah, so I've talked about this on this panel before, that there's no manual that you're given. There's nothing that the doctors really give you. It's just, here's this diagnosis, here are some local resources. They don't know all of them out there, so they really don't provide too many. And then they'll say, I'll see you again in 6 months, or I'll see you again in a year. And my husband, he had leukemia when he was younger, and his whole family was wrapped in this team of support that I just really wish was the case for the dementia population, the Alzheimer's population, mild cognitive impairment. Our healthcare system just doesn't do that today. I think that all of us here can fight for that to happen one day. And I would love to see that day come. But, one thing that we do with the Memory Compass is we start an action plan. So we look at kind of a holistic approach. I'm looking at emotional, environmental, cognitive, physical, looking at the limitations and the strengths that somebody has. And then also the strengths and limitations that the family has and their abilities to care for their loved one. What resources do they need? So, connecting with things like elder law attorney, adult day centers, everybody here on the screen, assisted living, memory care, the Alzheimer's Association, Sakoa, Dementia Friends. Like, there are so many resources out there that people just don't know about, and the amount of time that it takes to research all of that, on top of possibly working a full-time job. I mean, it's unfortunate the way that, unfortunately, after getting the diagnosis, you're not given all of that support right away. But coming up with an action plan, determining the things that are needed in your area, education on, where your loved one is now, what does early stage mean? What does middle stage mean? What does late stage mean? And then signs to look for on what to have in place moving forward to try to prevent more of a crisis situation. So I always want to have families, although we're kind of talking obviously about very sensitive topics as the disease progresses, I always want people to have in their back pocket, okay, well, when we start demonstrating these signs, really need to start looking into, having in-home care, or having, going to adult day services, or transitioning, into a different living environment. You guys can jump in.
I'm so excited. I just want to say yes to everything Jesse said, because the most important thing I think, Jesse, you touched on, is that before there wasn't a family of dementia resources. And that's why what we're doing here, what Jim has us doing, is so important, because now if you call one of us, you get all of us. We can all point you to where you need to go. And we just didn't have that before. And so it's so important that whoever is here today, because you got to tell somebody else about this video. And that's because even if it's not impacting you, or you think this isn't, it's happening. And so the reality is, whether it's your neighbor, your friend, your grandmother, someone needs this information. And all we need you to do is connect them to one of us, and we will take care of the rest. And we talk about this all the time as a group. This work is not for one of us. It's just not. It's not a lift any of us can take on our own. We do this together because we have to. there are enough people going through this disease that you need all of us. And so I'll just say that's why, at the Alzheimer's Association, we have the Community Resource Finder. It's an online tool where all of these resources are listed, because we're not going to give you everything you need. We don't have Regina's Connection to Day Services. We don't have, all of these things that you need. So I just want to jump on Jesse and say, yes, 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 all of it.
And even to kind of piggyback off of that, we have all of these services that are represented here, but there are even greater services, because there's a stigma with folks with Alzheimer's. There's a stigma that caregivers have. There's a shame factor, because especially those that are being diagnosed at an early age. So that family whose wife, was, a school teacher and nowhere near retirement, is now having to retire at such a young age because she's now diagnosed with early dementia. And so their friends now have dropped off. And so that support group, because of that, relationship has changed, because that husband is now the caregiver. He's never paid the bills before. He's never taken care of the home. He's never prepared the meals. He's always come home to those things done for him. And now the roles have changed. And so you're dealing with the stigma, you're dealing with the shame, and you're dealing with role reversal. So yes, it is all of us on this panel and then some.
The other thing to keep in mind is that when you see a cardiac disease, you have an idea of what to expect as that disease progresses. Same with a pulmonary disease. But when you look at Alzheimer's and like forms of dementia, it affects every individual differently. And so there is, like Jesse said, there is no playbook. There's no playbook, because every individual who's affected is affected differently. And their journey is going to be different from the person next to them in their journey process. So it just depends on the area of the brain that's affected and the type of symptoms that arise because of the type of dementia that they have, that will determine the best setting, the best opportunities, and the best treatment for them. So, I talked with the doctor at one point that said, you've seen one person with Alzheimer's disease, you've seen one person with Alzheimer's disease, because it does affect everybody so differently.
Well, beyond that, how many, and I don't know if this is going to be a high deal. I don't know who's going to want to answer this when any of you can. How many different forms of dementia are there? It's not Alzheimer's. There's Alzheimer's, but there's a massive long list of things. Is that not true? Whoever.
Yeah, that is true. And basically, if you think about any comorbidity that somebody has, or any disease path that somebody has, it can affect the brain. So you'll have dementia related to Parkinson's, you'll have dementia related to HIV/AIDS, you'll have dementia related to COPD or cardiovascular dementia, frontal temporal lobe dementia related to a traumatic brain injury. So really any ailment that you could have could potentially affect the brain and cause another form of dementia to surface.
Yes. And you that's such a good question, Jim, that you always ask me. Today I'm going to give you a number. There are about 400 different types of dementia, Jim.
How many?
400. It's so many, it's unbelievable. And people just don't know. You can have different symptoms, and sometimes you can have dementia that is treatable. Everyone hears dementia and they're like, it's over. There's nothing for me to do. You might have an infection, and it may just be showing. Dementia is just a bunch of symptoms put together. When they give you that diagnosis, your next question should be, what type of dementia is it? So that you know how to proceed. So.
Well, I will say that I am more empathetic than I've ever been in my life, because I experienced the COPD type personally when I had COVID, because it shut off the oxygen to my brain. And I was a 3-week period of time, but I was absolutely terrified. Is this it? Is it coming back, or is this where I'm at? And I basically was in one hallucination for 3 weeks. It was very bizarre. So, in fact, I remember waking up on the 3rd week and I had clarity. I'm like, Yes, so it was, it was a very big moment for me because, but I do think I had a little bit more perception of what it was like to sit and go, damn it, my brain doesn't work, that type of a thing. So what, when families do get this diagnosis or they do get the word thrown at them or which words, whatever, what do you guys recommend as their first thing that they should start seeking, start trying to do to start moving forward in some capacity?
I think that Jessie kind of nailed it on the head when she said you need to do your research. I think you should start exploring different environments, once, so you know what your next step is going to be. Maybe talk to people with home care, maybe look at adult day, maybe look at assisted living, maybe visit memory care. But I think to explore the different environments to see where your loved one is going to thrive. I think that is really important instead of hiding them at home. And some families tend to want to do that, probably to protect them. So instead of challenging them and enriching their life, they want to protect them and keep them safe. But I think to explore some of the options out there is very important.
Well, I think you hit a point right from what I started at the very beginning conversation with, that now I'm drawing a blank, but that Tony Bennett's out touring and doing concerts with this disease. And we don't need to hide them away. We don't need to take away their life. They still have a life, and it's just what challenges could we do to help to deal with this. What when someone comes into one of your now, Vicki, I know that you manage a whole bunch of these different things and whatever. Some of the things we don't really get to sometimes when we've done these things are some of the different tools that are available to use. I've heard things like in some of your communities where they put a black mat down by the door, or they use a different color plate for food. They have little shadow boxes. I don't think a lot of people realize some of the different tools that the industry and the professionals are using today to enhance those people's challenging experiences, if that makes sense. So I'll let those of you in that space to go ahead and go with it. So
I'd love to touch on that, Jim, because I really do believe that if somebody can stay at home and be at home safely, and have the social interactions that are necessary to have a good quality of life, then obviously, a lot of families would prefer to do that. But long-term care and assisted living options are good options as well. But there are some things that we do within our organizations that can carry over to the home environment that can help with prevention of weight loss. For instance, you mentioned the red plates. The color cayenne red studies do show that does increase your appetite. And if you think about all of your fast food logos that are out there on your fast food restaurants, they're done in a red color, which as you're driving down the road, that entices you to want to pull in and get your French fries and your hamburger. And so by utilizing the cayenne red plate, that red color will increase the appetite, but it will also aid in helping the food stand out on the plate. So if you typically serve on a white plate and you're placing fish or chicken or cauliflower or your lighter colored foods on that plate, folks with Alzheimer's and like forms of dementia, their vision starts to change. And so that all starts to blend together and they can't necessarily see where their food is on the plate. So having a contrasting color on the plate will help it stand out. They'll be able to visibly see the food better, and you'll see an increase in intake. The other thing is to provide them with their own personal space on the table by using a contrasting placemat, which shows them visually where their space is, and that prevents people from trying to reach over and grab food or items off of somebody else's plate. And we try to stay away from any major transitions in the flooring. Again, if you have dark mats or dark rugs on the floor, a lot of times individuals with cognitive impairments will see that as a hole. And so they'll stop and they won't want to cross that threshold, or they'll stop and they'll want to step over that threshold, which could potentially cause a fall. There's different types of aromatherapy. I think those are things that we're all very aware of that can help with sleep patterns and can also help with energy patterns. So utilizing those in the home can help increase appetite by utilizing some of your peppermints and your citrus scents. And then to help calm folks down in the evening hours, it's the lavenders and the chamomile scents. And you could even place those oils in your warm water and soak your washcloths in it. So as they're washing their face at night, getting ready for bed, they're breathing in that lavender and they're able to really provide them with a calming sleep. There's a lot of different types of innovation. Also, if you've got somebody who's getting up quite a bit, the weighted blankets are very helpful. You can utilize those at home as well. It's like getting a nice big warm hug from a blanket. I also equate them to the thunder jackets that you might have on a pet that has a hard time with firecrackers during the 4th of July. It gives them a nice snug warm hug, and it allows our residents then to relax more, reduces them from trying to get up so frequently, because they do feel safe and secure in that blanket. There's a lot of other things that you can do, with one-on-one or by providing some non-medical home care to make sure that there's some social stimulation. I think that probably is one of the most important things, because when we have folks who have cognitive impairments, a lot of times they hide those things from family members, especially if it's a married couple. One spouse may compensate for the other when the children are around so that nobody knows what's going on, particularly with our silent generation that doesn't like to share too much about what's going on. And so then you may not realize that there's something going on until there is a catastrophic event. So just being aware, asking the right questions, and assuring that you have some simple things in place. Utilizing Jessie is a great option. She's got some wonderful tools that can help keep people safe at home longer as well. Sorry if I ramble.
No,
That was very good.
I want to add, I want to add on that. So when I wear my therapy hat and I go into the home, it's like one of my favorite things to go in, and I'm basically a detective. So if somebody's wandering, or if somebody is having repetitive statements, or if somebody's resisting changing their clothes or not wanting to shower, or, they're not eating. Like, I take all of this in, looking in their environment and trying to come up with things, to reduce those reactions, to help family. And a lot of it can be trial and error, but it's so much easier when you have a therapist coming in and analyzing all of it, because when you're the care partner and you're living in the moment, you can't step outside the box and think, oh my gosh, what are all the different things that I should possibly be doing? You're just so kind of paralyzed in thinking maybe you're not doing the right thing, or, worrying, well, should I do this? Is it just going to make things worse? So, for example, I really love to get to know how, somebody's past career. I love to know what they used to do. So I had a patient who's on memory care, and she was going in and out of other residents' rooms, and it was kind of upsetting some of the other residents, but I learned that she was a realtor. So I put together this whole packet of different listings, and she just sat behind a desk and she would mark off, and to her, she was in the zone. And that gave the staff 20 minutes, okay? 20 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, but when it's 20 minutes and you have to keep redirecting them somewhere else and out of someone's room, 20 minutes could be 20 minutes that the, CNA could go and help somebody else in the bathroom, or 20 minutes where they can set up another activity for somebody else. Same with somebody who is constantly trying to go for the door because they had their purse. It was a female, she had her purse. Well, I said, let's try taking the purse away and see if she gets really upset about it, because to me, when I see my purse, I'm like, well, I'm going to put my purse on and I'm going to get out of here. So sometimes there are those triggering things that just need to be eliminated from the environment. But as family, I heard them say, oh my gosh, I can't take her purse away from her. Oh, she'll just go crazy. We took the purse away. never again did the individual start going toward the door over and over. So it's just, if you have the opportunity to have a therapist there and, analyze the environment, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite things to kind of be a detective to figure out what can help decrease, those different reactions to things.
And kind
Very
of
good.
along those lines, I'll tag team behind Jesse when you're talking about the therapeutic tricks of the trade, and some of the things that we could do. That's even in long-term care, when you still have a couple that desire to be intimate. That's a subject no one likes to touch openly or out. How to have that relationship, how to maintain your marriage and your relationship when your loved one has a diagnosis of advanced dementia or advanced Alzheimer's, not so advanced that they're not still sexually active or still wanting to feel intimate, but to the point where you just don't know because the spouse is turned off by this now because they've cared for them all day. And so having those conversations on how to be intimate without the sex or with the sex, how to do it, how to tell when someone is moving past or when they're in the moment or when their dementia has kicked in, because sometimes, you could, that switch flips quick and you have to know that. But more than anything, how to be honorable in those vows in this for better or worse stage and in this sickness and in health stage. And so a lot of people, they don't even think that. They just automatically, I'm the caregiver, I'm the slave, I'm the maid, they just automatically disassociate themselves as the spouse, or if they're the spouse, that I vow to love you even in this. And so just coming into those homes and into those relationships and helping to navigate that relationship, even that piece has to be talked through. I know we out here in the field, we don't bring it up on platforms like this, but it's so needed. When we do the support groups and we're behind closed doors, almost every caregiver, that is what they're crying about. He used to hold my hand. She used to call me sweetheart. And we don't talk about that anymore. And we really have to set a platform and a stage to talk about the intimacy that can still take place in relationships with folks that have the cognitive decline and Alzheimer's and dementias.
Very good. These are conversations that the fact that you just said that it's not being given in these kind of formats is why it should be given in these kind of formats. One of the things I'm going to kind of pick on Mindy and Hadya on this one, since you guys are both run the big organizations or you're involved in those. What is the I don't know what the scope of this problem is. I mean, I know that it's pretty intense. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of families that are impacted. You guys probably have numbers that we can throw out there because, basically the only reason being is whoever's sitting out there may feel like they're all alone, and you are not, you have so many people out there that are both sharing your experience and that can help, serve just to offset it. So I'll let you guys kind of go on that, whoever wants to take off with this.
Mindy, I'll throw out the numbers. I'm pretty firm today. Then I'll let you text. So, Jim, there are more than 6 million Americans living with this disease today, just living with it. In Indiana alone, there are over 110,000 Hoosiers in our state living with this disease, but also there's triple both of those numbers in caregivers. And we don't talk about how this disease impacts more than just the person with the diagnosis, right? So this is a problem for all of us. If you tap somebody on the shoulder that I guarantee within 2 connections, you will find someone who knows or has been touched by Alzheimer's. So that's all I'll say.
Yes, I'm not really sure where to pick up. I have a few thoughts running through my head, but just to kind of go off of that piece about not being alone, and kind of as you guys were talking through tools and tips and tricks, I was just kind of thinking about I feel like one of the most important things for a family member, caregiver to start to put together is that care team, and recognizing that your care team doesn't just have to be family members, or it doesn't just have to be, it can, the doctor, the person that delivers the home delivered meals is part of the care team. You know, there are so many people, you know, folks in your congregation at church. I mean, think outside the box about who can be on your care team. But all of this kind of leads me to say one thing we talk about in the Dementia Friends information sessions is just the consequence. And I hate to say the word consequences, but just the implications that caring for somebody without any support can have on someone. We came across a statistic that said that when spousal caregivers are between the ages of 66 and 96, I believe, those caregivers are at a 63% increase for mortality rates. So oftentimes what that means is that the caregiver passes away before the person that they're providing the care for. And so again, it's just so important for you to not, for one, for you to recognize you are not alone. And just like we're all echoing here, I think most of us can probably speak to personal experiences in addition to our professional experiences with this condition. So I just say that because, you know, yes, you're not alone, and you don't have to do this alone, regardless of how much training or knowledge or anything. It is not, it's not weakness to recognize the fact that this takes, you know, just like Jesse was saying, a true village to provide care to these folks. So, and just another little statistic, and something we don't really think about that often, is that the majority of people living with some form of dementia are actually still living in a community-based setting. So that is either in their own home or with a family member. So again, in the community. So I think a lot of us have this perception that, I think a lot of times we just think about Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia in the late stages. We do not recognize that these folks still carry on jobs and are outperforming concerts as they always have for all these years, and, you know, driving themselves and doing the things that they've always loved to do. I think we just, again, we kind of get fixated on that late stage and what that looks like for folks. So, you know, just recognizing that, you know, the vast majority of these folks are still in our communities. And that's why we can't wait. We can't wait until this impacts us to have an understanding of what this is. We need to know what this is. Again, what are those signs? How do we differentiate what normal aging or natural aging is versus what might be something a bit more significant? So, you know, again, I feel like I was a little bit all over the place, but it touches us all, you know, and I loved what Hattie said at the very start of this: share this video with somebody, because you just never know. Even if you share it on Facebook, you never know if a coworker is going to see that who hasn't told a single soul in your office that they're dealing with this. But now you just opened that door and said, I'm a safe place, and I know at least how to get you connected with people. So yeah, it really takes us all, truly.
I appreciate that. I sit there and I try to think of some of the things that are going on with people and you were just talking about the people that are hiding it. They're not telling anybody. They're trying to handle it all themselves. And one of the things that I see, and one of the things that I have done, that I think I just did it because I must have a masochistic streak, but I joined all of these caregiver support groups on Facebook. Oh my God, it's emotionally beats you to death, you know, listening to
it. Is overwhelming. I will say that. I think it's a great idea, but very overwhelming.
It's the pain and the
oh yes.
And what's very hard also is when I'm reading their comments and realize that they're getting really bad advice from, you know, not on purpose, but the people don't, it's the blind leading the blind, you know, and it's, you know, they don't know. And so they just go, well, this is what we're doing and they're wrong, you know. And so this video will end up on there. I'm constantly putting these videos on there going, here, please listen, you know, there is answers out there. But one of the things I see a lot is people have this massive guilt about asking for help, and then about the idea of taking that help to another level. Like, for instance, you know, they're trying to do it at home. We've talked about the caregivers and the stress that goes upon them. the idea of calling Regina at an adult day and maybe getting a respite, or maybe getting at least help during the day, or maybe now we need to get a hold of Carol or Molly and get them, or Vicky, and get them into a community. Could you guys, whoever wants to participate in this, I'm probably calling out the ones that I just mentioned, but can you help people understand where they're not being selfish by doing that? They are actually, being giving care at that point. So I'll let you guys kind of figure out if they'll let in.
So from in my world, that's the first thing that I do, because I'm very passionate about the caregiver. And so while I'm passionate about the person with the diagnosis, they have the most resources. I mean, there's a lot of resources for the individual with the diagnosis. It's the caregiver who doesn't access those resources, and they're the one who's worn out. So my first thing is, what are you doing for you? What are you doing for self-care? We have this diagnosis, but before they can even begin to navigate, before they even know they have a village, before they can pick up that phone to call any of us on this panel, they need to put a plan in place for themselves. That the airplane safety thing, where you put the mask on yourself first before you can save someone else. That's the same mode of operation we have to be in. So we have to talk to a caregiver about what are you putting in place to save you. And so when they call, I'm going to let them understand that you can bring attendant care in your home. I don't care who the attendant care company is. I'm not just putting a plug in for us, but you can, if you don't want to do adult day, you're not ready for long-term care, and you're not ready to share this secret with the world, there are companies that can come into your home, come alongside you. That's part of your village. Call a home health care company. Let them be there. Call your dear friend or someone else. Let them come in their home. If you want to see my husband today, bring me a meal. Let them prepare some meals. So you have to kind of help them set the tone. Come do some laundry for me. Just take advantage of the help that is out there. But if you can't, then I'm going to tell you about how you're going to burn out if you don't. So that's the picture I'm going to paint for you, what burnout looks like. And you're going to get there really fast if you don't call someone for help.
And I'll piggyback off of Regina when I have a family come in, and if it's a spouse or a family member who, feels guilty about bringing someone in and wanting to put them in a memory care neighborhood, I stress to them that we are here to support them just as much as the person that's been diagnosed. Like, let me take something off of your plate. We are here to give you quality time with your loved one. We want you to be a spouse again, or an adult child. Like, let us do the work. Let us be here for you. And so I try and stress that to them as much. There is no shame in needing help. That is why we're here. And, that's just my biggest takeaway for them, is that we are here to support the whole family, not just the person that has been diagnosed.
That is very true. And sometimes I just wanted to share a little anecdote. I met a son a few years ago, and his father had passed away and his mother had dementia. And before his father died, he said, I want you to promise me that you will see that mom's okay, that you will take care of her. So dad passed away and he moved mom into his house. And as her disease progressed, her care became more and more for he and his wife. And he was just riddled with guilt, about what to do. And so he came in and we talked, and then he left and he came back about a month later and he said, I had an epiphany. He said, it dawned on me that my father didn't say I personally had to take care of mom, but I had to see that she was well cared for. And I have shared that so many times with others. It doesn't have to be you providing that direct care, but utilizing a network and whomever it is, whether it be a community or adult day or one-on-one care. It doesn't mean that you have to provide that yourself, but
And then don't be afraid to, if one company doesn't work, don't be afraid to switch, they have to work. We're all in this industry to provide good care and good service, but sometimes there are those personality clashes. There are sometimes people run their homes differently, people run their facilities differently. And so you don't throw in the towel because you had one bad experience. You shop around until you find a fit that works for you and your loved one. And then that's when you find that fit, you're finding your knit. And once you find that, then you begin to create your village. And then you add more as the services or the requirements present themselves. You find more and more and just continue to build, you know. Um, we do what we have to do to get the job done.
Yeah, and let's touch on
Just-
one more thing. Oh, sorry, Jesse.
No, go ahead.
I think it's important for families to know and caregivers to know. One way that they can truly educate themselves is to understand how to talk to somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia. Quite often we're faced with folks coming to us saying that he or she's so combative at home, or they're becoming more physically aggressive at home. But when we really pull back the layers, we find out that it's all about how they're communicating with one another, and that they're maybe speaking too fast, or they're putting high expectations on an individual, or they're providing multiple commands, one right after the other, and they need to segment that into smaller commands, or that they're arguing with somebody because, one individual might be saying it's time to go get the kids, and the adult child may be saying, well, we don't, all your kids are grown, or, dad's no longer here. And to the person with Alzheimer's or dementia, that just causes even more confusion, because in their mind, that person is there and they do have to go get the children. So just join them wherever they are in their journey. I always tell family members, this is the one time that you can give those little white lies to your mom or your dad and get away with it, because it will help them have a much smoother process during conversations, and they'll be able to connect better with one another. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, I was just going to say that, although people, taking that first step of building your village of support is the hardest, but just don't ever forget that you are also one of the experts of the team. All of us here have experience in different areas, and we're very well versed in dementia and Alzheimer's, but we're not, your loved one's daughter, son, grandchild, friend. And so don't be afraid to also speak up. I've worked with families before who they're kind of afraid to share certain things with me, but the more that's shared, the more care we're going to be able to provide, the better care we're going to be able to provide, and support for everybody involved. So, what makes your loved one happy, what makes them upset, what kind of sets them off. So don't be afraid to share those things with whomever you're working with. And don't be afraid to, in your mind, know that you're just as much an expert, maybe not in dementia and Alzheimer's, but in everything about your loved one.
And I just would also like to add too, for those caregivers that are have the, Vicki just kind of alluded to some of those combative behaviors with their loved ones, because the caregiver themselves don't know how to communicate. There's training for that. The Alzheimer's Association has it right on. You can go there and you can get a training for how to redirect those behaviors, how to communicate with your loved one. Even with Jesse can come in and point out some of those struggles that individuals will have. Just getting them to sit down from pacing. There's tips on how to do that. There's tips on how to use a weighted spoon so that they can continue to feed themselves. And so these educational pieces that most people think we know because we're the experts, that's not true. There is information and education out there for you, the caregiver, that's available to get your hands on to help you better coordinate the care. And like Jesse said, be the expert in the care that your loved one needs.
Thanks, Regina. I was going to say the same thing. What Vicky has provided so many good tips today. I was even like, I should be writing some of this down myself because there's so many tips out there and we just don't know. It's really important that we talk about it because that will make caring for a loved one much easier. And as Regina said, we do have programs that talk about this. There's one called Effective Communications, another called Understanding Dementia-Related Behaviors. And I say that because oftentimes the reason family members are left out of our care village is because they just don't know about the disease. And we're scared to leave our loved ones with people who don't know about the disease. But the same way you learned, your family members can learn. Just get them the education they need so they can be part of your support system. You know, don't feel bad about reaching out to family. A lot of times they want to help, they just don't know how. So get those tips. And then the last thing I want to say is Regina said this, but you can't be a good caregiver if you are burnt out. And the reality is the best care that you can provide is care for both of you. You have to be at your very best. You get more agitated, more frustrated, situations escalate. And that's oftentimes because we are human. You are a human being and you have to treat yourself as such. You owe yourself and your loved one that much. So take care of yourself.
And if you're starving yourself because you don't take time to eat, you don't take time to sleep, that's not a good formula. It's not going to work, so well, ladies, I'm once again, I cannot believe that it's almost time because I've got like 5 more topics I was going to go into, but so, which is why we have to do this at least 2 or 3 times a year, because this is information that's so critical. And I've got such a great panel here that I get so excited about. Since we are running to the end, anything you guys want to talk about? Anybody that's got one thing they want to say that they didn't get to say? I'll give you that
one
shot
more
real quick.
thing, Jim, that I think is important, especially with it being Pride Month, and it's also Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. And we are seeing in our settings more and more individuals from the LGBTQ community that are beginning to enter skilled nursing facilities with Alzheimer's and like forms of dementia. And just, reassuring the LGBTQ community that we do specialize in care for culture specific and diversity. And I think it's important for folks to take those sorts of things into consideration as well, simply because our silent generation is the generation that hid all of their tendencies, and so, or their likes and differences, so to speak. And so now as the dementia is setting in, those things are starting to surface, and they're more open in where they are with their sexuality and who they feel they are and their comfort levels. So it's shocking to family members to see that too. So just know that there are professionals out there, there's organizations out there that specialize with working with the LGBTQ community and cognitive impairments. And I just think it's something that we also need to kind of keep in the forefront of our mind. And what better time than June, when it's Pride Month and Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month.
Anybody else? Hadia, you had something you had to do, so I remembered.
The helpline, thanks, Jim. It's 800-272-3900. I'm full of numbers today.
Well, I'm going to do a real quick screen share real quick and show y'all something. So we have, of course, this was our fine panel today. And on tomorrow, the Alzheimer's corporate kickoff meeting is going on for the people that would like to be attending that. There is a blood drive coming up on the 30th at Sycamore Reserve. And then we have our next panel will be on July 8th on safety and home and, trying to help people stay at home longer and all that kind of good stuff. You can always find our resources here. You can find our the blogs, and this video will be here at Video Library here soon. So, we're always trying to provide an opportunity for you to be able to go back to Life's Copilot and get this information. Bruce, I am sure that I will send out this video with the people's emails, and y'all can connect with that. So, because I'm sure you'll be able to get plenty of talent from here to come and help you. So, so anybody else got anything we got to, but I can't believe it's 7 o'clock already. So.
I know it's 7 o'clock. I just want to mention this very quickly. So Dementia Friends Indiana a few years ago partnered with Connor Prairie up in Fishers, Indiana, to host memory cafes. And memory cafes are really just meant to be social gatherings for both the person living with dementia and then whoever they want to bring with them. Can be a family member, could be their neighbor, could be their grandchildren. And so Connor Prairie is kicking their in-person memory cafes back off this Saturday. So from 1 to 2 o'clock, it will be outdoor at a pavilion. They're having the Hot Jazz Family Band there to play. So please share that with anybody. Truly, if you'd like more information, I'll make sure Jim has my contact information. You can get a hold of me, or if you just search Connor Prairie Memory Cafe, you can find it there. You can also find information on the Dementia Friends Indiana website, which I'll drop that in the link too. So
I haven't heard an update for a while. How many Dementia Friends do we have in Indiana now?
We are up over 8,000.
Wow.
We are at 8,155 Dementia Friends. And that's my other plug. So the US, we are almost at 100,000 Dementia Friends as of very, very close. So if you're not a Dementia Friend yet, this is the month to do it. We only have about 3,000 more across the country to hit that goal. So that's the other little plug there. So it's a great way to just kind of refresh your memory. If you're not new to this stuff, if you are new to this stuff, it is a great place to just open that door and just be exposed to these resources that you're seeing today. So.
Well, thank you very much. I will have this video kicking out to all of you so you guys can share as you like, Hadya, and to anybody you want. And then and we'll make sure to have it resources that you can go from there. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for another phenomenal panel. And I will talk to you all soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Jim.
you. Be careful, Jim.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.